So, this is it, Justin. We're back together for a melt Justin's mind. Actually, I'm not really going to melt your mind.
No, you might fry it.
But what we're going to do is we are going to do a world-famous experiment, okay? And this is the effects of stimulation on ESP and telekinesis.
Can I, telekinesis you further away from me?
Nah. So, what we're going to do is, I'll demonstrate, okay?
No demo. Let it be a surprise.
I will hold these.
Okay, so I can do this?
Not yet. Not yet. And then what we're going to do is we're going to see if we can read Michael's mind. Hello, Michael. You're in the studio.
Hello. Lovely to be back. And it's, boy, have we got something fantastic today.
Here, so you take this.
This is going to be a combination of Ghostbusters meets the Antiques Roadshow. Michael, tell us about what I can only call the stimulator.
This is an antique electrotherapy machine. It's circa 1860. Electrotherapy enjoyed a brief vogue, basically because it's absolute nonsense with no scientific basis whatsoever.
Exactly what we like in here.
So I thought, what better than to bring it to Beasts of War to test out some of our own theories from popular 80s films that we've all been watching.
Yep. And it's Beasts of War because clearly we're going back in time on this one. So,
well, here's the thing. If we're doing this skit, at least I'm the pretty one.
Okay, so what we have is Michael has lifted out the suit cards from a deck of cards.
Yeah, so the high cards.
The picture cards. The ones with the picture on it.
Yes, your favorite.
My favorite. The ones that are easy for me to understand. He's going to lift it, and then he's going to telepathically project into our minds.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And then we will tell him what he's looking at. And if we're right, we're right. And if we're wrong, we get stimulated.
All right, well, let's give it a go. Who's first?
I'll go first. Right.
Okay. Concentrate very hard.
Now, quick question. Are we just doing card type or suit?
Just the picture of the person on the card. Justin, I think it's a queen.
Dun, dun, dun. Okay.
Right, Justin, it's your turn.
All right. Now, one preface, Michael, you control the stimulator, not Biggins here.
Oh, go on, let me...
No, I don't trust you.
I just want to spin the handle.
No.
Can I just say before we proceed... if you actually turn that handle very gently, it's a relative, gentle, tiny sensation. But the other end of the spectrum, you will be going like that and you won't be able to let go.
Now, Warren, don't forget, antique, and you drop models.
Can we connect it to a bicycle?
I think we probably could.
Right. Okay, Justin, get your telekinesis head on. Okay.
Right, so I'm going to go with a king.
Unfortunately, Justin.
Oh, it's no, not you.
Okay, then.
I think we need a bit of stimulation.
So Justin is going to get stimulated.
Okay. Can you stand up? Otherwise, we don't want the table absorbing everything.
Yeah. So stand up. Is it going to absorb him? Right. Here you go.
Can you feel anything?
Let's see how stimulated you get. Let's see how stimulated you get. Go on, hold it.
I don't like it.
Try letting go.
I can't.
What?
Stop.
Okay. He's stimulated. Okay. Right. It's back to me.
Can I just say that this is quality science done at its best?
Right. After stimulation like that, I reckon you're going to...
Okay,
We
need to compose.
I predict it's a king.
Ooh. It is a king.
Michael, shuffle that. I'm calling shenanigans. Shuffle. Okay. That's not shuffle. Come on. Cut the deck.
Okay.
Right. Shenanigans.
Right. Okay, Justin. It's your turn, man. Right. Now, come on. You've been properly stimulated now. Right, Michael? Let's do this.
Okay, let's see. if this has worked, this is a proper, bona fide scientific experiment that... Oh, look. What do you think?
That's got to be a queen.
It is a
lot-
queen.
There you go. There's your turn, sir.
Okay.
Here we go, chaps. Actually, what if it genuinely has worked?
We're about to find out now. A jack. Oh! Oh!
Stand yourself up.
Okay. I'm ready for some... Stimulate me, Michael! Stimulate me! I'm ready. Oh! Oh! Oh, mama!
Give us some gusto. Okay, we're melting Justin's mind. This is not Warren meets Matt.
Oh, you can't actually open your fists.
No, you can't.
Give her a bit of a harder spin, man. I'm liking that. Oh!
I wasn't
Ooh!
expecting him to enjoy it, but...
Oh! Oh, I like that.
I'm kind of weirded out right now because I felt that, and that is not a good feeling.
Oh, that's actually
It does wake you up.
yes. That freshened me right up. Can you get clips?
No.
Right, Justin, your turn.
All right. Okay, this time I'm gonna go with the jack.
He's done it.
I'm telling you.
Just actually now let's see if it works after one shot.
Okay.
With Warren again.
Okay, here you go.
Queen.
Jack.
Spin her up. Okay.
Okay,
Right, I'm ready.
Here we go again. Here we go.
I'm ready.
Justin was a one-shot.
Aye.
Oh! 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 Stop!
Oh, so now it's the bad
Oh,
feeling.
wow. You are going to have to try it at that. There comes a point. There's a tipping point in this. Right. Okay, Justin.
Okay, Justin, here we go.
Justin, you're totally winning this. I knew you were psychic.
He got me sweating watching you go through that. I mean, that is
Okay,
stringent. I'd say.
that's most likely a king.
He's done it.
It is. He's a king.
I'm in awe. That's all I'm going to say. I'm genuinely in awe. Can we start doing lottery numbers?
Okay, right. This is a queen.
Uh-oh. Jack.
Oh, for goodness sake. Everyone has been a jack.
I told you I was the pretty one. Oh, you want me to do it this time? You okay with me doing it?
On one condition.
That you can... No. I know the condition. I'm saying no to the condition.
Oh, come on one condition.
No, because I'll be nice to you and you won't be nice to me.
If you do me, I do you. That's yours.
We did this once before and you tricked me.
Shh, don't tell people.
No. The mealworm.
Oh, that other?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So, we've done this twice before then.
Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice. How about no?
Go on, Justin.
No, Michael, all yours, buddy.
No, I'm ready for you, Justin.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, go on.
Okay, I'm ready for you.
All right. Which way do I spin?
I don't think it matters. I think
Matter which way I
it'll...
spin?
I think
Okay.
Okay.
that's
I will
the way.
make sure.
Oh! You literally...
Whoa, that's...
Okay, that's...
Okay, sorry. I didn't realize it would gear up that quick.
Oh!
There was cruel, then there's cruel justice.
Oh no! Honestly, I didn't understand the gearing ratio on that thing.
Oh, wow.
Okay, if you're not psychic after
Right.
that killer blast...
Well, it's him this time.
Yeah.
Right?
All right. Well, that's got to be a king.
He's done it again!
Do you want to call it quits at that, or do you want to
No!
go around?
No!
How on earth have you got... Just a minute, I mean, what is it, 1 in 3 every time? So
Michael.
3.
I sense a queen. Yes!
Okay. The final one. You don't even have to lift it.
Wait. Shuffle them all back up for the final one.
Well, hang on. Can we see if I would have been right?
It was a queen.
No, it's a jack.
King.
Oh!
Haha.
There is a chink in the arm.
Oh, there is. Right, so this is it now.
Last
This
round?
is that.
Last round?
No, not round. Last go.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay. If you get this, You are the psychotic king of the world. Is it? What is the thing of? I don't even know what the English term is for the otic of a thing.
I think it is the otic of a thing.
Yes, Justin will be the otic. He will be the otic.
The otic of the otters?
He'll be the psychotic.
Yes, yes, okay.
Well, that's going to be a jack.
Oh, unfortunately.
Oh.
All right, if I cry uncle...
I'll hold this.
Until you break it.
Okay, your turn to yank the crank, Warren.
I'm going to yank
Over.
Stand up.
Oh, yeah.
I think I'm going to stand up too for this one.
This is going to suck. Hi, everybody. My name is Johnny Knoxville, and... No! Stop! Ow!
Is that okay? Oh,
no! Perhaps there's a reason we've not had this on the Antiques Roadshow.
Okay, we have learned one thing today. An important scientific lesson. I do not like electricity inside me.
Well... There are other things, Justin. There are other things.
Yeah,
but clearly, man, you are like the psychotic of the team.
No, I cheated.
How did you cheat?
I watched the cards going out and worked out the probability in my head as what was left in the deck. So whatever was most likely, I picked.
Oh, so you were doing that kind of Rain Man thing, were you?
I was card counting. Meta brain, Warren.
But you were getting it right from the start.
No, the first one I got wrong. And then I had information to work from.
Actually, just
right.
a fair game. I haven't had a go on this for ages.
Oh, yeah, okay. You ready?
Okay. Ready? I'll bring it nice and close.
I am used to this. I can take this. Oh, you can fit. Can you see it popping? My veins. Yeah. Can you see my veins popping there? It's not. Yep. That's it. Whoa. Yeah.
All right, I put the brakes on. I didn't let it spin down on its own, unlike Muggins.
Right. Well, look, I think we have scientifically proven. I don't know what we've scientifically proven. I thought I knew what we've scientifically proven, and then Justin.
You know this. I don't like electricity inside me.
Justin doesn't like it inside him.
Hello everybody, it's Friday night and it is Weekender time once more. And on this week's show, courtesy of our friends over at the UK Games Expo, one lucky subscriber will get a chance to win Robin Hood from Thames and Cosmos, a big board game adventure set in Sherwood Forest. To be in with a chance to win, you need to be a subscriber to the channel, pop a comment down below, and if you can give us a like and share us around, that helps us out as well. Otherwise, sit back and relax as I'm joined by the crew to take a look at all the gaming from across the industry and also a special guest for the Kickstarter. Your weekend starts now. Hello everybody, after that shocking start, I think it's time to take a breath. This is what happens when you leave them to their own devices, I feel. So I'm glad that they're getting a chance to recover.
And they are in the show, but they're just only there when we torture them. So there we go. So.
Little activities here and there, you know.
It's the best way. So welcome to another Weekender, one and all. I'm joined by Ben, Free and John as we meander our way through a whole host of news from the last week in gaming. Before we get stuck into the show proper, though, there's a few bits and pieces that we have upcoming that people should keep their eye out for. The first of which being Stargrave, the last Prospector themed week. Dun, dun. So, next week, all things being equal, myself and Shay will be embarking upon a little mini campaign.
Very cool.
Nice.
So this is the upcoming book. I think it releases at the end of next week, actually.
It does, yeah. So it starts all its releases and stuff sort of midway through our theme week, which is pretty cool. So
that's handy. And you'll be able to come across, watch us ham-fist our way through several scenarios, watch our gangs grow and shrink And you'd even be able the chance to win a few prizes. Once again, we've got 3 little bundles to give away. One for our YouTube viewers, one for the otters over on Tabletop, and finally our Cult of Games members have an extra chance to win by commenting on any of those videos throughout the week. And we even have a little interview with Joe to wrap things up as well and hint about what's coming next as well. So stay tuned for Stargrave and the embarrassment of riches therein.
I can't wait to watch those Let's Play games, because from what you've teased about them so far, they sound incredibly fun. And I can't wait to see how Shay dives in, because you've told me he has some very cool ideas about how to take his crew and what direction to go and stuff. So
it does. And a crew member who may surprise you being his MVP. Possibly
Perfect.
MVC, maybe. But you'll find out what that means in time. So we've got a rake of games across the week, and also a couple of chats with myself and Shay talking about our crew at the beginning and at the end. Apart from that, obviously you can pick up that prize. If you can remember way back to the start, there is The Adventures of Robin Hood available from our partners, courtesy of the UK Games Expo, because we're on almost the homeward straight towards
nearly there.
Yeah, it feels like only yesterday when we were talking about going, and now we're halfway through the year almost. This year has gone appallingly fast already. I hate it. I hate it so much. But yeah, if you want a chance to win that, then obviously stick a comment below and let us know what you think about whether or not Guy of Gisborne should have used an axe or a spoon. It's an important question.
Relevant.
It's an important question. Very relevant.
The spoon will hurt more.
That spoon will hurt more. But I think we're ready to get stuck into the show proper. And it's time to take a look at our Indie of the Week. And this week, we're going a bit Blitz, a bit Krieg, with blitzkriegminiatures.com.
Yeah.
Nice.
Who's responsible for this? Is this you, Ben?
Yes, it is me. So this one popped up because I was looking at something that we'll get to a little bit later on in the discussion about Blitzkrieg. But I was enamored by their historical content that I'd seen. And so when I clicked over onto their web store, I was like, oh, maybe they only do the kind of ancient stuff that we'll look at in a bit. But then it was like, no, wait. There is World War II out the wazoo. I liked how that sounded. That was good. I like to think that the wazoo was actually a weapon used in World War II by some strange military arm of something. Anyway, there we go. It is now. It's a grenade launcher from the Hungarian army. Wazoo. Yeah, there we go.
Wazoo, absolutely. Yes.
As all the veins pop in John's head. But yes, their main sort of focus over the last while has been World War II stuff. And they don't just deal with kind of like land-based stuff. They've also done planes and things for you to use in your games. They've done big ships and everything as well. And then you have your traditional sort of tanks and infantry elements as well, which is quite nice. And yeah, they have a fairly broad selection of offerings for pretty much every nation that you could think of, I would imagine, in World War II, which is quite nice.
How about we look at some ships?
Please.
Some boats.
The thing that I quite liked about their ships, and it's one thing that I know a lot of people were quite liked about the way that Foreground approached doing ships for a couple of games out there, is that they don't have the big puddle bases and stuff that we've seen on a couple of them. These are, I see these as like gaming pieces rather than them being sort of gaming and display, which I think is quite nice.
Yeah.
Obviously, you don't get to stick the name on the side for some of these ships or whatever and things, but you know, I quite look at these. And as you can see, I'm sure there's a lot of technical detail in these where everyone's going to be like, that's exactly the right gun for that type of ship, but I don't know. I just like the fact that they basically look like they've covered pretty much everything that you could want. And you've even got things like your submarines, your U-boats and stuff as well, which is kind of cool. So, yeah.
Especially at that scale as well. It's 1 to 1800. Yeah, but they go smaller. Tiny
Even
planes
smaller.
as well.
Tiny planes.
Wow.
Go on like little multi-armed bases. Yeah.
Who would you like to see in the smaller scale, John?
Japanese.
Japanese.
Because even at this scale, Yamato should still be huge.
True.
It's still weirdly the 28mm version of it.
Yeah.
There's a big
Some really
carrier.
nice stuff there.
So
Trying to see whether or not I can see the Yamato there.
Big Arrow and Congo are there. Nakuma.
oh,
You've got to assume it would be in there somewhere, wouldn't you?
it must
Oh,
be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably lurking near the bottom somewhere.
Mm.
Like you
But-
go through all
Because
the other options.
they do seem to be going alphabetically because they're like that.
The thing that's quite nice about the range as a whole is that, like it, as I say, it feels very well rounded. So if you were diving into a naval game and you're going to try and play a specific scenario or a particular battle that took place, you can probably find the models to go with it from Blitzkrieg. I know a lot of that stuff like comes from different people, and they they print them for people and that kind of thing. There it is. Oh man, it's wow.
When it's a tenner, you know it's a big model.
Yeah.
Oh, Yamato, you're so cool.
This is the 41 version
Yeah.
before they
Oh, no.
upgunned it.
Yeah. So before and after, yeah. They
That's
realized
a ridiculous amount of turrets.
there wasn't enough anti-aircraft on it, and they were like, "We need more of that."
Well, that's
I
one
like
way
to
of doing
think-
it, certainly.
I like to think that that's how the Yamato decided to steer. It didn't use a rudder. It just
Guns.
or
Just
used
gun,
the guns to shunt itself in different directions.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way forward.
Clever, very clever. And all these Iron Tide ships are done under license then.
Mm-hmm.
There's some of the British as well. If you're into your naval.
Yeah,
1800
pretty much.
Lancaster.
Pretty much anything that you could think of for the naval engagements is there. And as we've sort of discussed, as we've looked at other indies over the last little while, there's plenty of naval games out there for you to play. Not just from the main producers as well. There's lots of little indie games and things like that. And we know that naval's actually quite a big thing for a lot of people. I know a lot of folks dive in and play that in our project system and stuff, which is quite nice. But yeah. But there's even more World War II.
Wow.
There's infantry by the bucket loads.
156.
So, yeah.
156th and 148th. So
48's an unusual one to go with, isn't it?
yeah.
Unless you're playing a skill agnostic game, really.
It
Kind of.
depends. Depending on manufacturer, 28mm could be either or sit somewhere in between. So
I was going to say, what would be the millimeter? Like
literally they fall on both sides. I think
Right,
Rubicon. I want to say Rubicon run at 148th and Bolt Warlord for Bolt Action are 156th.
Right,
That might be the
okay.
other way around.
Bolt Action's kind of 156th, but heroic.
Mhm.
You know, that heroic proportion. Whereas
Big
Rubicon, I think,
heads,
is still
hands like hams.
156th.
Yeah.
I
Bit
think
thicker.
Rubicon's the same, but Rubicon's the more actual proportions,
True
true
proportion style things,
proportion,
yeah.
which these look more
That's
kind of in between, in a way. Oh, I like that.
a couple of snipers.
Mm-hmm.
Should be lying prone.
Maybe they're in the middle of a town up in a bell tower.
Do you know what
Yeah.
it is? The guy standing is the guy that's too busy shooting Vin Diesel.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's funny. Don't bleed out in the street, Vin. Oh, too late.
We'll see you in Fast and the Furious.
Fast X.
Two world, two war. What? Panzer Treks and Fausts.
Oh, nice.
What I liked
Anti-tank
about-
needs.
What I liked about what they've done as well is that you have the kind of like typical infantry squads and specialist weapons, but then they do the sort of quirky stuff as well. So you have things like the German bike squads. Admittedly, they had the Hitler Youth as well, that, you know, actually did end up having to do a bit of fighting, you know. So,
Wow.
It's
maybe not that
terrifyingly
young, but, yeah.
morbid, but yeah.
yeah.
No,
It
it's
happened.
exactly, it happened.
Yeah.
Defense of Berlin. Add them to your Volkssturm.
Oh.
Be a 6+ to hit with anything with those.
Everybody gets an Iron Cross.
Yeah.
The thing that what I quite liked about these as well is that while obviously you could use these for sort of adding into sort of larger scale games like Bolt Action and that kind of thing, I actually think these would be quite nice for sort of smaller skirmishy style affairs as well. like obviously we've got 0200 hours coming out soon from Grafe now. And I was thinking how you could have some of these as like bike patrols and that kind of thing that are going around in like captured villages that you have to try and like avoid and stuff. And then because then you could have them actually riding around, as you can see there. And then when they stop to spot people, swap out the miniatures. I know this is a lot of effort. Swap out the miniatures for the guy who's going, oh my God, look, Allied soldiers. And mess around like that. You know, that's what you got to do when you've got like a handful of miniatures on the table, right? So.
Certainly a way to go. Yeah.
I like the Kubelwagen crew. Can we have a look at them? I just want to see the boys going on a road trip. That one, yeah, going on a trip.
What nice stuff.
That's
Lads and lady.
That's cinema night right there. That's the boy. That's all. That's the crew going to the cinema.
There's some really unique stuff in here, isn't there?
Yeah.
The Germans on bikes are fantastic.
They're so charming.
Oh, there's a topless German on a bike. You are right, John.
Yeah, I told you. That's your Africa Corps right there.
Driver. Or you could put him on the toilet. The driver. Sat down.
So there's somebody who knows how to get prone.
Yeah.
Nice set of figures.
Yeah, very nice.
If we go back to where were we? We were at the World at War.
Yeah, let's have a look at check out some allies and see what they got on the British side of things.
Swap over to the 148th because presumably they're the same sculpts, just
up or down.
Printed in a difference.
Yeah.
So the Americans still only have the one unit in both scales.
Mm-hmm.
British are the same.
No, that's a Jerry-sized picture. That's okay. There we go.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Picture was fine. Yeah. People are awfully complaining about pictures. Just
I like how they're so different from each other.
What is that on their bum? What is that?
What's it called? It's a pick, isn't it?
Yeah, little entrenching tool jobs.
Yeah. Did they? I think so. Was some of them carried the shovel and some of them carried a pickaxe.
Okay.
But it folds down, the handle comes off the top and it slots into that little baggie on the back.
Stops you from sitting comfortably. The guy with a very peachy bottom on the left-hand side as well that hasn't got one.
That's clearly an officer.
What, this one over here?
High-class bummage over there.
And when in doubt, use your shovel as an axe.
I like the fact that the guy with the Piat doesn't have one either. I think there's enough problems with his
He has enough
life.
problems. He's been given a Piat. He's holding it backwards. Oh, he's holding it over his shoulder, ready to. Yeah,
he'd already reached his encumbrance limit. That was the thing. So.
They got plenty in the Russians, though.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of the Soviet and the German stuff in their collection. I think that's the most fleshed out stuff in these scales anyway, which is kind of cool. So, and the thing as well is that you obviously the Soviet army is one that was so diverse effectively during the period because they did the thing that probably maybe other nations should have done. I mean, obviously it was a bad thing getting absolutely everybody to fight, regardless of whether or not they had a weapon or not. Mm-hmm. But it certainly meant that they were a fairly unstoppable fighting force. That's why you don't invade Russia. So
the problem with the particularly the women's involvement in the Russian army in World War II was they still didn't get the rights. They still weren't allowed an equal footing. They were frontline, they were doing snipers, you had the night witches who were the night bomber crews and stuff like that, but they had to argue, fight, harangue, and steal everything they needed. You do see a few memoirs of Russian women that were serving either as nurses or frontline troops that were like, I actually enjoyed my time because I got to meet a lot of people and this, that, and the other. And, she's from the social aspect, they were like, yeah, that's cool. And on the other end, they were kind of like, yeah, but that officer did not like him much because he didn't like me much, or he liked me too much. And it's
I can imagine, So,
we can look at it with rose-tinted glasses today, but you never have just one that thing being one good thing. Having said that, the fighting girlfriend is a story that is so inspirational.
That'd make a nice
That's a good
statue.
propaganda piece, yeah.
That is, yeah.
Yeah.
It would make a very good statue.
I'd say very, very sort of focused towards the idea of maybe doing the fighting around Stalingrad and that kind of thing, and the push into the east and stuff. So, but yeah. The other thing that I quite like about it is it's kind of, you've got the elements there to make larger, interesting models to go into larger armies. But then you've also got stuff to do the skirmish games. But then you can also just use it for diorama pieces and that kind of thing. Like there were so many models within both the German and the Russian collection there, or the Soviet collection, that had so many different elements that you could use for building up nice dioramas and vignettes and that kind of thing, which I thought was quite nice. So, and then of course we have tanks. And John was dumbfounded.
Go for it. Let me have it.
We're just gonna let you go now, John. Yeah. This allows you to go wild and free.
Yes.
Yeah.
You just give me
we're going to look at the mouse, please.
Straight into the mouse.
Straight into the mouse. Give me that Panzer II as well, actually.
Where am I going?
Bottom left.
Bottom left, yeah.
Let's go from something really big to something really small. That's not a bad mouse.
Be a chunky piece of kit.
I have the Warlord resin one, and it's hilarious. You could kill someone with that model.
Oh, really? A bit? Just a chunk of resin, yeah.
It's one big piece of resin with another big piece of resin on top of it.
They're practically in scale to each other there.
Yeah. Those pictures are to scale.
Unfortunately, not multiple angles for that.
I don't want to be too picky, but I wouldn't personally, with the way the industry is today, I wouldn't be coming here for a regular tank. I'd be coming here for the odd stuff.
Yeah.
I'd be
really strange
for the flamingo. I'd be here for the flamingo.
I have never heard of a flamingo tank.
It's a flame-throwing tank.
Wow.
Okay.
Those two little things on the front are friggin' flamethrowers.
And the big bits behind them are the
fuel tank.
reservoirs.
And how far did the flamethrowers reach?
100 yards was the best that the British were able to do.
Oh my.
Something like that probably wouldn't do that, because you need a big old pump system to do that.
Well, you could make a miniature one, John.
Yeah, it seems like a bomb waiting to happen with the tanks, but at least they've armored them, I guess.
I could imagine
a huge amount of armor on that. The way the British got around it was they towed their fuel supply behind them, so if they got hit, they didn't explode.
Right.
A lot of the other nations just didn't bother. It was too much hassle to tow something. So, especially if you want to go for speed,
is the turret then a machine gun then on the Flamingo?
Yeah. It's
because you wouldn't dare give the commander of your tank an actual flamethrower to use. That would just be too distracting for someone.
See anything? No.
Little Czech tank. 38T.
That's a 38T.
Amazing chassis that they put so much on. So much.
Skoda really did give a lot to the Germans in the Second World War. See, here's the kind of stuff I'd be here for, is that the Stommels, the 251/22 and the Pioneer half track. I'm here for that kind of stuff, because everybody and their mum can get a Panzer IV, Panzer III, a Tiger, a Panther, but when you're trying to do a really themed army of something, this is where all the specialist stuff comes in.
Yeah.
Just because some of it is so quirky and maybe only one or two regiments ever used them. Why wouldn't I want a six-wheeler lorry?
That's a strange looking one. Yeah, that one you're on there, Jerry.
When it came to things like up-armoring vehicles and doing stuff like that, where they bodged things, how permanent was that kind of stuff? Or is it sort of like, we need this for this short section of a campaign, and then they sort of tore it apart again, or what was it?
Well, to be honest, Jerry, see that the Bison, the Panzer I there,
that big boy.
that's one of the modifications done to a Panzer I,
right?
Where they realized, they knew at the start of the war Panzer I was useless with only 2 machine guns on it, but they had a whole bunch of surplus French artillery guns.
Okay.
What are they, Jerry? 150s or something?
Yeah, the big Durians.
It's a big stupid howitzer, and they were like, well, the Panzer I chassis can hold that, so let's just put that. Literally didn't weld it and just slap the gun on top of the Panzer I.
Rolled it onto it.
How tall was that? That must have been huge.
Very. There is footage of one of those firing at a building, and it practically sits back on itself when it fires.
Whoa.
It's kind of scary looking.
Yeah.
But the point, like, they would modify something in a batch, so like there'd be 10 or 20 vehicles a division would take and go, we need something for this particular problem we're facing. They'd do that, and then afterwards they would either continue in service till they broke down, or they would just be removed from the listing.
I guess once it served its purpose, hasn't it? I suppose.
Yeah, or it'll have been superseded by something actually coming in from the factories.
Yeah.
If and when the German factories were awake enough to do anything, or intact enough to do anything.
Was there ever a circumstance where something that was bodged in the field became a mainline thing for like any of the, like someone was like, oh, if we just add this here, and then one of the engineers was like, how about if we actually really do that? Did that ever happen? Or
probably the example would have been the Stug.
Right, okay.
Because Stug, as it is on that picture, is only an infantry support weapon.
Mm-hmm.
And then they kind of retrofitted, kind of field fitted a longer anti-tank gun into it. And they were like, actually, because it's really small, it can hide.
It works.
That's good for killing tanks. And then they went mad with that and built tons of them.
Huh. Fair enough.
Oh, look at the little R35.
What's the little tiny? Yeah, what's the little tiny droid-looking thing?
Any at all.
the gonk droid of tanks.
Yes.
French tanks. They're always good for laugh.
To be fair, like, give the French credit. That Somya is one of the most heavily armored tanks of the early war period. Like the Germans really struggled to fight those things when they came across them. And then there's the Renault FT, which is a World War I carryover. But you could argue it's the granddaddy of all modern tank designs, because it was the first tank that had a rotating turret with its gun in a turret.
Oh, cool.
It had that traditional layout, so that's what everyone's stuck with.
Also, a lot of these turrets ended up being put onto emplacements as well along the wall.
Yeah.
So,
that's true.
Yeah. A lot of World War II. We'll take a little jog back in time.
Yes, yeah. So this was the range that drew me to them initially, because and maybe we'll start with them. If you open up the Ancient Indians, have a look at those. So I saw these pop up on a couple of different sites, and was like, this is very fascinating. And so they've created a range of ancient Indian warriors for you to use in your games from back in the past. Maybe if you wanted to take on Alexander the Great and that kind of thing, you've got the options to do that, which I think was quite nice. The thing that I really liked about this is that they've kind of covered all the core elements. So you've got your sort of command bits and pieces in there. You've got your sort of standard spin. And you obviously have to go and buy some brass rods for them. You got your badass macemen. I think those are really cool. And then your archers and all that kind of stuff as well. So they've basically done all the core bits that you need for playing as like an ancient Indian army, which I think is quite nice. And I just thought it'd be fun to maybe collect an army like this, because nobody is probably going to have something like it. And you could rock up to a club and be like, boom, here's my Indian army. How do you like them apples? And then someone will go, well, we never got there. And you'd be like, well, fight them anyway.
Well, I bought them. Here's your opportunity.
Don't worry, the Persian Empire was big enough to be laying the head into Indians even before Alexander rolled his way through there as well. So they were always fighting somebody. We're the Tamil kings.
But I just thought it'd be I would imagine it'd be a fascinating painting project, as well as it just being an army building one.
Yeah, I bet.
I don't know whether or not it's just because you see that in sort of stuff for like wars fought in and around India, but it always feels like it would be very colourful and that kind of thing. You'd have lots of sort of bronze on display and sort of big, bright, bold colours and that kind of thing.
Less of your neutral tones.
Yeah. So sort of stepping away from sort of greens and browns and that kind of thing, and stepping into sort of big poppy colours. I think that'd be quite fun to do. And just do something different. But a lot of their sort of focus has been on kind of building up Like the Romans is a extensive range.
I bet the Thracians are nice as well.
But yeah, it's a nice little selection of different things. Again, done with the aim of kind of packing together sort of the core of armies for you on the tabletop. I was thinking, I don't know whether or not you think the same thing, Jerry, but I think these would be quite nice for doing maybe some of the slightly different forces that might appear in like Clash of Spears and that kind of things, because you can go and find some very alternative models and that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah,
from these
everybody
guys.
always likes Cataphract.
Yeah.
Anyway, and if you do fancy putting a force up against the Indians, then Seleucid. There's some Macedonians. Look at them. Phalangites to get everywhere. It's a really good way of doing it. I mean, there are plenty of big mass battle games as well, from Hail Caesar, Impetus, or Mortimer Glorium, whatever you have.
Yeah.
Float your boat, really. We got companions in here as well. Cataphract.
Oh, nice. I'm an elephant.
And a chariot. Use a chunky bit of kit.
That's wonderful. It's taken some time to get that armor on the elephant.
Yeah. And the thing that I quite liked about it is I kind of like the slightly chunkier nature to them. I think it sort of fits into that, slightly more Rome type of war view I have of things, because that's what I played, which is kind of cool. So, yeah.
Nice.
But I don't think they'd look too out of place alongside a lot of Warlord stuff, potentially, because again, it has that kind of heft to it. So, there's slightly more heroic proportions. So.
And Aventine as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, wouldn't want to see a whole flank of those coming towards you.
Not at all.
Issues. On the other hand, if you see elephants coming towards you, just set fire to some pigs.
Yep, yeah.
I
often wondered how realistic those scythe chariots were. I know that they, like some people had them, but I think I remember when people were talking about the Celts and stuff and the Icenian, they were like, they didn't have bladed chariots.
no, they were battle taxis.
Yeah.
You dropped off your people and then you donated and flew away. No, those Seleucid, the Persian chariots, the heavy chariots they had were like that. You would just crash in, doing all the damage. Rompiers.
Oh, they're really nice.
When you can't get a Falx, get a Rompier. It will mess up an awful lot of Roman armor.
Yeah.
They're quite nice. Fantastic. We don't like.
I love that Thracian king.
Yeah.
These are quite nice.
Oh, the head. Fantastic.
I had horns on my helmet before they were not real on Viking helmets.
Glad you said that. Do they print these ones out at 28 mil?
They are 28 mil, yeah. So, although I think they said that,
the bottom.
Yeah. Although what was quite nice, I think on their About Me page, they talk about the idea that they'll do sort of like, they don't normally sell individual elements, but if you are looking for just like particular things from kits, they will do that and stuff, which is quite nice.
The almonds.
Yeah. Very sort of traditional Romans that people will know. So, yeah. But very nicely detailed. Yeah. Got to get those time periods right. So, Warren's not here to help us. So.
Well, it is important. People know, they recognize these mostly from Hollywood things.
Of course.
But somebody was asking in the Saga Facebook group the other day, what book that they would get these out of. I was going, you won't. Saga haven't done early Imperial Romans.
No, yeah.
So you've got sort of Republican Caesarian Roman, and then you've got Fall of the Empire. But they don't actually have the scutum wielding all the lovely Loricus Segmentum armor. None of that. And also, because the way Saga works, it means they also don't have a battle board that reflects the way they fought so much either. You have to kind of fudge it together. They're quite nice.
I was watching just while we look through these, I was watching a video a couple of days ago, where it was a historian looking back on battles in movies and things. And one of the things he was talking about with all the ancient battles was he was like, why have you not dug ditches? And I was like, ditches? And he was, and the guy was like, yeah, because ditches are like a massive part of warfare, because you make it awkward for your enemy. And he was like talking about like that scene in Gladiator and stuff. And he was like, well, the Romans probably wouldn't even be anywhere near that forest. They'd be on a field somewhere so that they couldn't get ambushed, and then they would dig a bunch of ditches and just wait for the barbarians to attack them and kill them in a ditch. And it was like,
it's right to a certain extent. If you couldn't get them into a field, though, or if you had to travel through a forest. And we're looking at you, Germans. Then you have to fight where you have to fight.
Yeah, true.
Never get trapped between a forest and a lake. Just saying, Romans. They're really nice.
Yeah, cool.
Nothing for the Palmarians or Egyptians yet.
Yeah, I think some of these are expanding or going to be added to
really nice.
Over the next little while. As I think a lot of their stuff they kind of bring in from other designers as well. It means that once things pop up on people's sort of stores and galleries and that kind of thing, they'll then sort of work that into their collection. But hopefully, as you can see, they've got plans to do a lot more stuff for the ancient era, and they have a wealth of options for World War II as well. So, yeah, something for everyone, really.
There you go. If you're interested in diving into some of the more esoteric for World War II or taking a stab at some ancients, check out Blitzkrieg Miniatures. We're going to take a little switch, and when we come back, we'll be getting into the news.
Coming to you from the center of Northwestern Europe. Covering board games, war games, card games, and all that you love. It's the news.
So yeah, diving into some news from the world of tabletop gaming for this week. We start things off with a little bit of a focus towards the fantasy. We've been talking about historical for a little while, so diving something a little bit different. Broken Anvil miniatures, also colloquially known as BAM, apparently.
Right.
BAM!
Does the Bellion know that they've used his copyright? Because one of our community members begins every sentence with
That
BAM.
is true. That is true. Yeah.
That may actually be him.
Yeah. That's him about to enact justice. So anyway, Broken Anvil miniatures are going to be coming to Kickstarter very, very soon in May with their new fantasy game called Rivenstone. Rivenstone comes from a select group of industry veterans, one of which is Will Hungerford, who a lot of people will know worked on Privateer Press's War Machine and Hordes back a couple of years ago. It was very influential in how that developed and sort of grew and changed. And now he's got his hand in this alongside a whole bunch of other individuals as well, including the lady that he plays the game with, Faye, who has been sort of on there on the kind of game design side of things, which is pretty cool. The game itself is going to be a sort of small warbandish sort of skirmishy style affair. I know people get confused when I say skirmishy and then start mentioning anything above 10 models, but that is a thing. We've discussed it on XLBS, right? Okay, it's fine. So no army should get beyond about 20 figures, which I think is pretty cool. The game will have alternative activation. And whilst games are focused on sort of bashing your opponent up, they actually will have more of a sort of tactical objective style focus in the game as well, which I think is pretty awesome. So when you set it for a scenario, you'll have a particular objective that you need to accomplish, not necessarily just beating up somebody else on the other end of the table. And then in addition to that, there'll also be this really cool event deck that is then played alongside your game. So you'll have the sort of the variety of the scenarios then mixed with the variety of the event deck on the other at the same time, which kind of adds some spice to this and sort of builds on the narrative. One of the big things about the game is sort of really focused around the title, that thing, Rivenstone, which is kind of like a magical essence within the game. You'll some scenarios might ask you to mine that or draw it from certain areas or kill people for it and all that kind of thing as well. So it's a very sought after resource within the world. The factions themselves, we saw some earlier for the Shattered Empire. They're kind of like your humans within this world, but they have used Rivenstone and the magic within the world, which kind of pervades everything, to make themselves augmented. So a lot of their big, huge, powerful weapons and things are ones that they have been able to use because they have sort of grafted sort of Rivenstone into their bodies and that kind of thing as well. So that guy there with those massive sort of augmetic fists,
you'd hardly
the
notice.
magic. Exactly. Yeah. he has definitely missed leg day. That's the way to go. So yeah, you can see the influence of warjacks everywhere. There's also the Oryx, which you saw there as well, which kind of like your Orky style race within the game. They are not fussed about the idea of using technology, and they want to just like basically destroy Rivenstone and shatter it. And so they are all based around sort of running in and kicking your ass with axes and weapons and all that kind of thing as well. Very cool sort of design there. I like seeing orcs, or at least orc-style creatures, done not painted in green.
Yeah, it's nice. Although they are Warcrafty.
Huge Warcrafty, yeah.
But they're not green.
I mean,
you are correct.
I assume that's the portal into Warsong Gulch.
Yes, yeah.
Which is where we're now standing. Oh, yeah, the Gulch.
Yeah.
The Gulch.
So when you set that up on the game board, someone on the other side also has to just say, "You are not prepared," or something, or whatever. So, but anyway, so in addition to the Shattered Empire and the Oryx, you've also got a couple of the other factions that have been shown off just in teaser images. You have the Iron Guard, who are my favourite, who are, as you might have imagined, the Dwarves. Yes. So the Dwarves walk around in those big, huge, sort of mechanically sort of engineered.
It's a walking turret, isn't it?
Well, basically, yeah. It's like a walking watchtower kind of thing. But yeah, so there you kind of dwarves within the world of Rivenstone. There's also the Risen, which sort of looks towards your kind of undead aesthetic. So if you want your liches and mad priests and zombies and all that kind of thing, you've got that there, which is pretty cool. And then the last of them is the Wild. So the Wild is, to put it in the words of Bam, the stuff that we couldn't fit into other factions but looked cool and we really wanted it to. So it's all weird and wonderful and crazy creatures and that kind of thing that have that live within the world of Rivenstone, and they're out there trying to fight back against all these other invading empires and that kind of thing as well. They have said dragons are a big thing, so I want dragons. More dragons, please. Dragons are amazing.
Dragons are good.
Yeah,
it's fascinating stuff. Do we know anything mechanically about the game, or is it just the factions that are coming and the sort of the figure count? I was saying, this kind of you've got alternative activation in the game. So you do action, then it switches over to your opponent. Gameplay is based around all of your individual units will have cards, as you can see sort of in the back of that image there, which will represent the characters and how they work. Then you each have the game runs off those sort of custom dice that you see there. Dice, but they're poly as well.
Yeah, so you've got poly dice in there as well as D6 style dice in there, which have symbols on them. When you roll to attack and do damage or defend and that kind of thing, you're looking for symbols on those dice in order to negate or influence actions and stuff on the tabletop. There is a full sort of Let's Play demo game that they've put in that news story. So when you look down in the links down below in the description, you'll be able to go and watch that and see what you think. Hungerford sort of goes through the game with Faye, which is pretty awesome. So there's going to be the 5 factions, I guess you'd say, that you'll be able to pick from as starter boxes when the Kickstarter goes live. And there's going to be a whole bunch more added in as things go as well. It looks like it's going to be their big new sort of fantasy IP, which should be fun to dive into. So, yeah,
excellent stuff.
Nice.
As long as it's War Machine done right.
It's the quirky characters that get me. There's some very strange, unique-looking characters there, and I'm glad they mushed them into their own faction, as it were, rather than trying to find a place.
A whole faction of whimsy for you, Free.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. It's terrain that actually fights in battle. That's
one way of looking at it. Yeah. Sticking with fantasy then, but going down a more traditional route.
Yes.
Battle systems.
So battle systems, as people will know, are famous for their amazing skirmish game, Core Space, where you take on the role of sort of crews and space pirates and adventurers and mercenaries, sort of wandering around, beating each other up and stealing loot in space on space stations against weird robot aliens and all kinds of things like that. But battle systems also make a range of fantastic fantasy terrain, which is now going to lead into their new fantasy game, which is called Maladum, Dungeons of Enveron. Boom, I got it in the end.
Got it, but slowly.
You got it, but slowly. That's the way I work. So this is a game that is based on the same system as Core Space, because in their words, if it's not broke, why fix it?
Exactly. Yeah.
But it has been tweaked and changed and updated to bring in the fantasy genre. So obviously things have changed mechanically to move away from it being more ranged focused, as you would have imagined with Core Space, with laser rifles and that kind of thing, towards melee being more of a thing. There's also an entirely new magic system that's been built into the game, which is pretty cool. And also the flow of games is a little bit different from sort of core space, although primarily quite similar in many regards. You are going to be going into a lot and doing a lot of dungeon delving, as you can see by some of the prototype terrain there you've got alongside the sort of new stuff, which is pretty cool. Sorry, the old stuff, which is pretty cool. So you'll be delving into dungeons, trying to find loot and defeating enemies and trying to potentially even race against opposing warbands as you do so. And then you'll be coming back from your adventures, going to the tavern, finding out rumors from individuals and sort of, finding new quests to go out on and that kind of thing. And then heading out and experiencing, leveling up your characters with experience, and then going off on new adventures and that kind of thing as well, which I think is pretty cool. They have said they're going to try and make this so that it's, a little bit like Core Space, a blend between it being a role-playing game and being a skirmish game.
Sure.
So they kind of sort of like bridge the gap between the two, which I think is quite nice. They're also going to be updating everything that you sort of know and love about their kind of components for Core Space. So you'll have new player dashboards, you'll have things for tracking ammo and things like that, because, you do still have range weapons in this game, but they want to try and make it so that it's not such an easy way for you to go. So you can't just rely on having infinite arrows, Legolas. So yeah.
Just pull them out of the corpses.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, I think that'll be the way to go. They have gone into extensive detail, more detail than I could put into the article about this over on their blog page, where they have talked about the different kind of enemies you're going to be facing, the kind of characters you can play as, the dungeons you can delve into, and all that kind of thing as well. And yeah, as we've seen from what they've done with Core Space over the years, they're not shy about doing something original and quirky and a bit weird with their games and their miniatures range. So be prepared to see a whole bunch of awesome plastic stuff in the future from them, which I think plastic and resin stuff probably in the future, which is pretty good. Anyway. Very nice to see. Battle Systems have done a great job with Core Space, and I can imagine them doing an equally amazing job when it comes to Maladum. It's going to be coming to Kickstarter in the near future. Battle Systems are usually at UK Games Expo. I think it'd be really fun to try and catch up with them there and see what plans they've got in action. Because I would love to have them over in the studio playing a bit more of their game Maladum. I think that'd be really
cool. There's a ton more info on the rules.
Loads.
Yes. Yeah.
Look, there's a blue thing.
None of your typical fantasy races here, although they are still there, but yeah. So yeah, very cool.
Excellent stuff. I'm liking the look of it. But then I'm a sucker for anything fantasy based.
Oh yeah, a dungeon delve.
Proper square bases and you're flying.
A dungeon delve is not to be sniffed at. So,
no.
Yeah.
Where to next?
So, Stonemaier Games have announced a new expansion coming to the classic Viticulture. So, if you've ever played Viticulture before, you're going to be sitting in the shoes of a wino family. Not wino. Wino was definitely the wrong word there.
Oh, I don't know.
I mean, more so constructing wine more than necking it. But anyway, players will be competitively working against one another, and they're going to be making their own vineyard from grape crushing, harvesting, and a large bank of fields in different locations about brewing the best wine in old-time Tuscany. So if you have ever buried your head into viticulture before, players are going to be placing their little wine workers to task out the racing aspect, really. And you'll know that the business is cutthroat for mama and papa businesses. But Stonemaier have announced that it doesn't have to be that way anymore, and they're bringing in collaboration with other players and working to sell the tasted grape together. So using the base game of viticulture, which you will need, players are going to be working towards the same goal. So constant teamwork, you're still going to need to rake in their 25 points, and you're going to need to be reaching out to new territories over the course of 6 years. So you need to meet 2 winning conditions. That's the accumulative victory points that you need to rack in and progression to the end of the influence track together. So my only gripe about viticulture is, according to the game, if you leave your grapes for a year, it's going to improve the quality of the wine. I'd chuck my wine out if that's the case. That's my only gripe. But the new edition is it doesn't alienate.
It'll get lonely.
The new edition, it doesn't alienate any other expansions that have happened. So if you do have the Essential Edition, if you do have Tuscany expansion, you can utilise them in solo and collaborative play as well. I really like Viticulture. It is really thematic. You get to produce your vines, you get to harvest them, convert them into wine, selling the wine, and it does flow all great together. You have to rely on the luck of the drawing cards, which I know some players do find quite frustrating when competing, but I think it's going to really take the edge off if you're playing collaboratively. And it's certainly going to pair well with a nice bottle of wine if you're not competing as well, because I know that ends terribly. It's going to be heading to pre-order in summer this year, so it's so far just been teased with information on what we can expect. But we have been told that after the pre-order, if you are ordering straight from Stonemaier, you're not going to have to wait long at all. It'll be with you in a couple of weeks. But if you do want to order it at retail, pre-order it there, you are going to have to wait a couple of months for that to come to you anyway. But really cool news.
Cool,
yeah.
Interesting stuff. I know Ben's a big fan of Viticulture.
I've played the base game of Viticulture more times than I can recall, but it's, as you were saying, Free, it is incredibly cutthroat.
Yeah, it is.
Many times where I've gone, why are you stealing all the things I need? Why have you ruined my game? At least this will mean that I can say that to the game rather than around the table.
It does. More brains working together rather than at each other. But I do think it's a really nice movement, change of direction for this particular game specifically. And I really like that with Stonemaier games about how they do. Our expansions look at different types of player and adding to the core. So
it's not just a reskin, it adds something to your gameplay experience.
It's an expansion of the universe as opposed to
it's the best way to do them, I feel. I look forward to the Norwegian expansion.
Ooh.
I discovered this week that there are Norwegian vineyards. And I've gone, oh, that's amazing. I need to go there. And then I discovered that one of them has an Airbnb, so you can go and stay at their vineyard. This is amazing.
That sounds cool.
That does sound very cool.
Booked up at the moment.
Norwegian wine.
No, it's terrible. But anyway, moving away from the wine and into the dice for a new collaborative effort from Adam Dobbins and Modiphius. So there is an upcoming game due later on this year called Dice Legions. Last year, during lockdown, Adam got bored, as he is wont to do, and he probably created about a dozen new games. But one that really caught people was his Dice Legion game. Notice, doesn't have an S, so you can tell them apart. And it was literally a case of playing out fantasy war games using D6, or in actual fact, just any dice across the tabletop, D6 being the staple. And he started off with a big bag of dice he'd bought from Amazon and then started making up some cards to represent the various things. So these are your units on the tabletop. Here's the serried ranks of elves, orcs, dwarves, demons. You're with me. And he just got to work doing, as Adam does, a very quick, accessible, and fun game that people can just get into. And because Adam enjoys doing things like blackboard and whiteboards and building stuff out of wooden blocks, he started making his terrain maps, his cartography that he could play across. So here you can see a village being defended over a bridge from the oncoming horde of orcs. And that's where it started. And that caught Chris Birch's eye from Modiphius, who contacted Adam and went, we should release this. This would be a great game. So they've been tinkering away in the background with a view to an end of actually doing that. Now, I know these cards are obviously awesome. Unfortunately, Modiphius decided that they probably couldn't just stick with vector graphics and the little pictures and stuff. So they've got real people on board. So Christian Quino has been doing some work, which is very reminiscent, very very reminiscent of the stuff that Free League have for the One Ring.
It is actually,
He didn't work on that because I checked the minute I seen it. But there's a whole host of card backs and like coming, and then as you can see, it has a very, I would say, generic fantasy look, because at the end of the day you don't need a big world building going in there, but I quite like the fact that there has been a little sprinkling of flavour. For example, we've got the Ireland infantry in the Roll Against Evil edition, and as you can see here, his the initial idea was a deck of cards, and the cards on one side have got the infantry or monster stats, and then on the other side would have terrain. So you have to draw a map. You can just play on a bare table and then put the cards down. I think this is actually going to become 2 card decks, where one will be terrain and one will be the actual units. So you can still go ahead and draw your stuff out if you want to, or you can just use these on a tabletop, which means with a bag full of dice and a deck of cards in your pocket, you've got a full fantasy mass battle game.
That's an amazing idea.
That you can bring with you anywhere. Ranges are done in inches, which is, I did suggest that they use the cards as the measuring tool, and then that way you wouldn't even need a ruler. You'd use a long edge and a short edge, or maybe multiples thereof. They've said no, but I can dream. But this is one of the first of the Roll Against Evil or Roll versus Evil series that Chris and Rita have started to do. So this is a charity that they put together at Modiphius to essentially support various causes that they think are worth time. So this one, for example, is the Ukraine edition. You can go and download this now. You can get it from Modiphius' website, or you can get it from Wargame Vault, and it costs $5 shiny or £3.80.
Wow!
All of that money goes straight to the Ukraine. Everybody's donated their time and resources for this. So Adam's done this rule set for gratis, as have the graphic designer and the artist as well.
Brilliant.
They've put their money where their mouth is, essentially. They had a charity raffle last month. I think was the first actual Roll versus Evil thing that came out. This then is their next sort of little addition to that, and it's a preview for Dice Legions as well. So if people are interested in checking out the game, it's got 8 units in it, and they will be unique to this little version that is just going to be available for as long as it needs to be available. So if you later on decide to pick up Dice Legions, everything in there will be shiny and new. It's not just going to include some of these things. So I think it's a great system, an awesome little game. That means everybody can play fantasy battles on tabletop without having to have an army or terrain. You can literally just go, fancy game, I'm going to play my orcs against your elves, or I'm going to play my humans against your dragons, because the larger polyhedrals can be monsters.
It certainly would mean that if you're going to like an expo or an event or your local store and you see that big, massive bucket of dice that, lots of stores sell, you could be like, right, time to build an army.
I have a friend who's a big bucket of like 200 or 300 foam D6 that they got, that he loves using because he can just chuck them into the air and let them fall onto the table without damaging anything. I'm just thinking things like that. It's a great way of getting younger people into playing, and there's a very active Facebook group already
brilliant
for Dice Legions, and some of the map work, the cartography from people has been amazing to see what they've been up to. So definitely worth checking out if you fancy supporting a worthy cause, and if you want to get anyone into fantasy gaming. Let's face it, we're all gamers. We all have dice, which means you've already got the armies to play.
Sorted.
Yeah, pretty much. Crash, bang, wallop, what a picture. As they say in France. Potentially. I don't know. Haven't been to France in years. Anyway, sticking with simple ways of getting people into gaming, but a bit more traditional this time. WoFun have released their latest in the Peter Dennis signature range. And this time round, they are diving into the joy of battles of medieval Britain. Put my teeth back in to say that one. So if you haven't come across them before, Peter Dennis has been doing illustrations for Osprey and a whole host of historical things for decades. Pretty much my youth and my history classes whenever I was a kid were stuffed filled with work by Peter. This is a little starter pack, and as all the starter packs, they come with 2 sort of small armies for you to begin your journey into historic gaming. In this case, it is Edward and Robert the Bruce as the English attempt to deal with the Scots once and for all. And as you can see, that's what you get in the little starter set. So it's about 36 elements per side, mix of cavalry infantry skirmishers and some range, the likes of bowmen. And I'm a huge fan of, well, both Peter's flats anyway, and also the WoFun acrylic versions that they do, because it's just such an easy in. All you need to do is punch them out of a sprue, and away you go.
Slot them in, and there you go.
Yeah.
And I mean,
it does feel like playing with an old history textbook.
It does. It really does. There's the Bruce at the back, desperately hoping Mel Gibson doesn't come and try and stab him up. But the nice thing about it is the cost. So we don't often talk about cost because costs vary and people will go off and find these things cheaper somewhere else or blah, blah, blah. But for 18mm figures, you're going to be paying somewhere between a third and 50% more. And then when they arrive, you're going to have to clean them, paint them, and then get them on the table. With these, they're cheaper, and within an hour of them arriving, they can be slotted into bases, and away you go. And when you're done, you just pull them out of those slotted tab bases, chuck them back in the box, and they store away very flatly indeed. So
I think it's a great way to go.
Yeah. It's a great idea.
It's a stonker, shall I say. They've been doing this for a while now. Obviously, WoFun have their own range that they launched through Kickstarter, and they've added to that with various other artists coming in doing sort of fantasy and the like. But I think the Peter Dennis signature range just looks
stunning.
Amazing. I love that they're double-sided as well.
Oh yeah,
they're great.
100%.
Well, it's like the Paperboy stuff, but obviously done in a fashion where you don't even have to cut.
The fact you do not have to cut out in between the legs, and you don't need to know what sort of pinking shears are required, is worth its weight in gold, as far as I'm concerned. I've got ECW, I've got Ancients already from WoFun because I really like the pair of them, and it's those things where I'm going, maybe I'd like to do this, but with everything else I'm planning on doing, I'll never have time to paint the stuff. So being able to go, well, if I fancy playing a bit of English Civil War or Ancients, I can do my Peloponnesian War stuff and then just slot them back in the box afterwards. These are just the beginning. There's already an extensive set of additional pieces over on their website. So you can get things like Welsh archers to use as mercenaries for either force, although more likely to be the English. There's also the wee free men. So you've got your mad Scottish skirmishers as well. I really like the fact that those knights have their heraldry. In some cases,
it's really good.
There will be some specific people that Peter is recreating, and in other cases, he just does sort of generic things. So you'll have like generic blue pike regiment and generic red pike regiment, so you can tell them apart in the tabletop. It's just a nice way of doing it. So you can be as historically accurate or as light as you want to be.
The other thing as well is that while you can obviously use these for whatever games you want, they do actually have rules in the sets, don't they? By Andy Cannell.
And it's it's a light rule set that's easily accessible for people. So if you're planning on trying to encourage people to play a genre or a range that they wouldn't normally, or a period they wouldn't normally, they're a great way of doing it. And specifically when WoFund started up, the whole idea was to bring history into the homes. And so they view these ranges as a way to teach kids about history and then also, encourage wargaming as well.
I think it's a great halfway house between something like the Command and Colours games and full war games.
Yeah.
Because you have the more board gamey Command and Colours style affair. This is like a halfway between the two because you've effectively got kind of board game style componenty things. Yeah. And then if you really wanted to, you could just move on from there and do something else.
I've been looking at Age of Penda.
Using
these ways.
Yeah. That's a great idea.
Good idea.
Yeah, I thought so. That's one of the add-on packs of the Commander pack. But there's also both British or English and Scottish Purveyor's Crossbowmen.
See, that's the thing. You'd find it incredibly difficult to even come close to painting it this way as well.
Oh yeah, well, I just wouldn't just leave them in a box until they grow old and wither on the vine like the rest of my collection. But yeah, I think if people are interested in getting involved in a new period, then they should definitely look at the WoFun range or Peter Paperboys, the range that they came from, you can pick up sheets from Peter's for a couple of pounds. And print them out as many times as you want on a home printer. All you need to do then is stick them together. So as far as a cheap, accessible way of getting into historic wargaming goes, I think it'd be hard pressed to find anything cheaper without just using dice.
It's also an option.
Also an option. So where are we finishing off this week then, Ben?
So we finish off this week with the Games Workshop pre-orders that are coming up this weekend. The focus this time around is back on the Mortal Realms and into Warhammer Underworlds and the Nethermaze. So this is the new boxed set for Warhammer Underworlds, which sort of takes place of the old one. Inside the set, you'll get everything that you need to start playing the game. You get your decks of cards for playing as each of the different warbands that we'll look at in a second, alongside all the tokens and dice and things that you need as well. You'll also have the updated rules and everything there too. For the warbands themselves, you have 2 to play around with. You have the Shadeborn, who have been sent by Barathi into the Warhammer Underworlds and the Nethermaze to try and find all sorts of strange things to bring back to her so that she can enhance her newfound godhood. Those are your K-Knight Shadow Stalkers that you probably will remember from one of the old Warcry box sets from the Skirmish game. So they've kind of transferred over. Also, that character that's leading them as well, a lot of people will be very familiar with a model similar to that from Silver Tower, potentially, if you remember that coming back through Warhammer Quest. So yeah, they're really sort of updating all the stuff for this side of things for the proper Dark Elves, I guess, rather than just the Daughters of Cain. Up against them, you also have Skitter Shank's Clawpack, which is quite the hard word to say. And I absolutely love these. I think they're a great sort of update on the traditional Skavens. And the thing that I really liked about this is that there's nothing to say you couldn't use these as a warband in Mordheim, because there's nothing overly Mortal Realmsy about them.
True.
So I was just looking at these and going, well, there's someone's new Mordheim warband. I thought it was very cool indeed.
Let's get them on a proper basis.
Exactly. Get them on squares. Get them on squares. Yeah. But yeah, another dynamic set, obviously, you can see there to go up against the K-Knight Shadow Stalkers. As well as the 2 warbands. There are also a couple of new releases, re-releases of some of the ones from the old set. You'll remember these 3.
Yeah, so they're not leaving them straight in the core box. That's good to know.
Yeah, so you'll still be able to dive in and pick up these. So you've got Zandir's Truth Seekers and Dakunin Crew. If you want to sort of dive into that classic matchup between humans and orcs. And then alongside those, you've also got the Exiled Dead as well, which you've seen in some previews before, that kind of sort of evokes that sort of Frankenstein's monster style affair, Dr. Frankenstein kind of thing, Necromancer. The thing, as I pointed out when we first looked at these, is that if he's exiled, what the hell did he do? Because I can't imagine the evil people of the Mortal Realms are that nice. So what made him get exiled from his own evil fraternity? We shall have to wait and see. But
I'm hoping he was exiled from regular humanities.
Maybe.
Places. But otherwise, if he's just wiring everybody up to the mains, then that probably has a chance to clear the decks whenever he comes creeping around.
What this did point out to me when I saw this set was that, like, you see those really nice human soldiers just in different armor styles and that kind of thing. There's in all the books about Age of Sigmar, they talk about these amazing human civilizations that live within the Mortal Realms. There are some that use, like, their entire armor is made out of beetles and all this kind of stuff. There's amazing factions that they've detailed. But what do they give you when it comes to playing as the Empire of Mortal Realms? The same free guild stuff that you've had since Warhammer Fantasy Battles. Make normal humans in different styles. It's almost like there's an Astra Militarum person somewhere inside of me going, make lots of regiments, damn it. But yeah, so hopefully they do that, something like that, and play around with it, because there's so much scope to do something fun with that. But anyway, there we go.
Living the dream. Living the dream. Right. That's us done and dusted for the news. We're going to take a little swish, and we'll be right back with you in just a second.
Did you win one of our prizes? Find out on our prize claim center over at OnTableTop.com. Here we list all our previous prizes and those who have won. If you see your username, fill out the form to claim your prize. All prizes must be claimed within 30 days.
And bingo bongo, just like that, we've replaced a John with a Leo. Hello, Leo.
Hello.
How are you keeping?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm full of the joys of spring. It's sunny out and all sorts. Nobody expected this from Ireland. I certainly didn't.
We have a very good weather in Paris as well.
Of course you do.
Yeah, a lot of sun. I'm just looking at it now. Yeah, great. But yeah, a little more often maybe than.
Just a little bit. Yeah.
A little bit.
You're slightly closer to the equator than us. That's why I put it down to. So we are going to talk about your new Kickstarter for Mythic, Anastyr.
Yes.
And I suppose the first question is, what's it all about?
Well, this is an original universe that we created. That is it takes place in a very distant past of the Earth, when dragons ruled, when you still had dinosaurs, where you have like not primitive, but very barbarian, Celtic sort of people. And it's a universe where there is a danger, and you're going to play very powerful heroes who go on a quest to save the world. And the mechanics of this game are inspired, as you can see, by the beat 'em up sort of games, such as Golden Axe, if you remember, like these very old video game. And so you have this scrolling thing that we saw. You have a lot of fighting, a lot of combos that you can do, like you can see here. So he just gave him a headbutt. That's a combo. You have the Fury. This is the Fury that he just unleashed. Just like in these video games. So you play with cards, you try to do your combos, and you try to move and scroll. And you are attacked by hordes of enemies, like literally hordes of enemies, like you can see here also. And yes, when it looks bad for your guys, you can count on some mounts, just like in Golden Axe. You can ride mounts such as a Wyvern here. This is a way to help you. You have other ways. And you are going on a big quest, a very long quest, that will bring you to Anastyr herself. She's that's the name of the villain in this game. She's a queen of dragons. She's a witch, and she is in her fortress is in a volcano, and she has an army of trolls that you can see here. You're going to try and defeat. That's her. That's Anastyr. And you have bosses and mini bosses in this game. Like so, she's the boss. You can see the miniature with the very finale, but you also have some other bosses, some other mini bosses, and you have to find their weak points, and you can find them throughout your quest.
It's a fascinating thing. I noticed whenever I played through it with Shay, we had a little run at it, and it gave me that Golden Axe feel, although I haven't seen any gnomes yet for stealing all your potions, which is a good thing. But the one thing that really stood out to me was the feeling that you are a hero, because if somebody jumps you with 5 of their friends, then you could quite easily either level them all or pick one of them up and smash them repeatedly into their friends until they're all dead. It's a surreal experience, I suppose. Is the best way to play. But I can also imagine in the Golden Axe style, the popping Death Adder over your shoulder and then launching him like a missile into the incoming people. The IP itself initially started was Paolo Parente.
Yes. Paolo Parente is the art director. So he started working on this universe over 10 years ago. He even released some racing miniatures when he started in 2011. And then you also had like a guest box for Zombicide Black Blade Black Plague with Anastyr miniatures. And the characters are still there. Oh, this is a dragon that you can ride in the game. So you have two pledges in the game. And in one of the pledge, you will be able to ride a dragon with the magnetic system that we have. So each hero comes in two miniatures, one foot miniature and one mounted miniature. And this is an ally that can help you fight Anastyr's dragon. So yes, he started. Sorry,
what one you get straight away? Then that one, I presume. I suppose you're going to have to work up to mount that one.
Well, you have like big enemies sometimes that you meet, and you really need help.
I suppose. The combat is something that really interests me in terms of using combos with the cards, and especially working up to kind of the overdrive equivalent of getting a final hit in. I mean, could you tell me a bit more about that, about how you're using cards to create combos?
Well, you play with a deck of cards, and each card has 3 different colors. So you have red for combat, you have blue for defense, and you have green for art. Art is the magic of this game. And when you play your card, you can decide to put it under your dashboard in a specific order. And if you do so, you release your combo. And when you have a combo, that's a free action that you add on the 2 normal actions that you can do during your turn. And then you have the Fury card, which is the absolute best attack you can have. Mm-hmm. And Fury cards are unlocked once your Fury gouge, once your Fury has reached the top, and you release your Fury by playing cards, or sometimes by some other things like in some scenarios when you reach a mass grave, you are just angry, and it elevates your Fury.
It infuriates you.
All that hero might, yeah.
So there are currently, is it 6 heroes in the core set?
Yes, 6 heroes in the core box, and you have 4 different classes. You have warrior, so they all play differently. They all bring something, and they have a unique gameplay. You won't feel the same when you play one or the other. So you have 4 classes. You have the warrior, such as Conrad that we've seen. You have the rogue, who's pretty balanced. He's very good at walking through difficult terrain, and he has some sneak attacks. You have the tank, who's obviously very good at receiving damage and just holding. And you have the shaman. The shaman is the one who masters the magic in this game, and especially it's not like a magic like. It's not like Lord of the Rings where you throw fireballs. It's more a primitive magic where you will tame wild creatures, summon the elements, and things like that.
Nature focused.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the interesting thing is it's a 1 to 4 player cooperative game, but then you also can select one of the unused heroes to be essentially your extra credit in the machine. So if somebody does get knocked out, then you can bring in that extra player to keep you going. So you can play the same scenario multiple times with different combinations to see which one works for you best.
And it will always play differently every time you try again. But then again, you could play in a campaign. If you play in a campaign, you will have to choose your heroes that will form the companions of the spear. Mm-hmm. Your goal is to, throughout the scenario, to find some shards of a magical weapon that could defeat Anastyr and her dragon, her big dragon. So you will find these shards in different environments, and each environment that you go through will bring new enemies, different creatures, beasts, different loot, everything. Yeah. So there's a lot of renewal, a lot of replayability in this game. You won't do always the same, even if there's a lot of fighting.
One of the things that I really liked was, as we get to them, the wild beasts and the sylphae, because when you generate your initiative order, you generate the order for your heroes, for your opponents, and then also for the environment you're playing in. So you can end up with wild horses running rampant, or these unusual impish creatures sort of teleporting in at menhires, and these can be interacted with. So you can tame the beasts to become your mount, or a companion that will give little sort of auras and spell wards, or you can fluff that tame roll and have a hoof to the head as they gallop off somewhere else, which is a delightful way of changing up the sort of the standard mechanics of a board game where you expect to be facing foes. You don't always expect to have a pack of hyenas to deal with. Can we expect to see beyond that?
Yeah, well, yes. You also have a story that is told to you with some unexpected events happening. So when you play a scenario, you will have some quest cards, and you will have to read the first quest card, and the first quest card will tell you your objective. You don't know the other objectives. You will discover them as you play. And once you have accomplished the objective, you flip the card, and then you can read some narrative text that puts you in the mood, and it will give you a new objective. And this is also part of what doesn't make this game repetitive. This is what makes this game a bit like a story that is told to you, but you play the action scenes.
Yeah, because you don't have to actually complete every quest objective. There are some main secondary quests, and then there's secondary. Yeah, absolutely, yes. And that also makes you want to play it again and see what would have happened if I went through this secondary objective. And so yeah, it's what we tried to achieve. We didn't want to just have an action game. We didn't want this to feel repetitive, and we wanted to look great. Look at, this is Anastyr.
That's massive.
It is huge. How much is that? How tall is that particular
It's 16 centimeters. So,
wow.
Yeah, that's
huge.
Yes.
Huge paper.
And even look at this one, like the guy, the mounted guy on the back. He's huge too. Yeah. I can tell you, like, he's really, really big.
So what is the range of the miniatures? What's go from
35 millimeter. 35 millimeter. But as you can see here, you also have like this big troll is huge, and he's not the biggest in the game. We'll have some even bigger creatures. Look at this boss. Look at that. This is the boss.
That's one evil-looking bunny.
Yeah. Well done for him to staying on that.
Yeah. They bred them bigger in those days. Yeah. So what sort of length of gameplay will people be looking at for the core box?
A scenario is roughly 90 minutes to play. You can play from 1 to 4 players. And the good thing is setup is pretty fast. You know, we know we've had like big games that took a long time to set up. Not this one. This one is really fast. You don't have many tokens on the board, almost none. And although you have hordes of enemies, you don't have to roll for each of them. You know, they move as a group, and you will only roll 1 dice of defense for the combined attacks that they do. So the flow is fast. You only roll your dice from your hero's perspective. So when you attack, you will attack a space, an area, and you will allocate the results you did on the different enemies in that area. And they don't have hit points. So if you reach their defense, they're dead. And so you can decide, okay, do I want to get rid of the big one or of several little ones? That's the only thing you have to think, and then you remove the minis. And when they attack and a space, an area where your hero is. So if you have 5 enemies in that space, you will only get 1 attack. You will look at the attack value of this one of these miniatures, and all the similar kind of miniatures will add +1, and then you will roll your defense. You know, that attack is a fixed value. You will just roll your defense, and the difference between the attack value and your defense is how many hit points you lose. It's very, very fast, very simple.
Especially when you've you've got multiple characters on the board doing different things, and that's when you can use the sort of the role allocation, so you can get Breed in there to block some of the attacks if she's capable.
Yeah.
So it does force you to be cooperative rather than competitive.
It is
with
absolutely. You can play cards for your friends. You know, you can say, "I'm going to boost your. You really need a boost. I'm going to spend a card to boost your attack value or to boost your defense because you need to roll high." Sometimes you have reaction cards that will allow you to do something before something else happened for your attack. You play a reaction and maybe you can move before the attack, or you can do an attack before the attack, things like that. And sometimes, yes, there are interactions. There are a lot of interactions with the players, even if it's cooperative.
So there's only 2 pledge levels. You've either got the core pledge or the pledge with the additional dragon in it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of miniatures in there already.
Oh, yeah. So I think there are around 75 miniatures in the core pledge, which is $130, and including the big Anastyr miniature that you've seen, including the big boss that you've seen, including a lot of mini bosses and things like that. You have some mounts. You have horses, because you can mount on horse with the magnetic system, as I mentioned. You have also, only during the Kickstarter, the avatar, which is the miniature of one of these Sylphae you mentioned,
right?
Which will be sold after this Kickstarter, and it's a big one. And then you have the Dragon Pledge. So this is it. The Dragon Pledge adds this dragon miniature. He's huge, also 16 millimeters tall. And again, yes, you can remove the top of his part, and replace it with a saddle that has a magnet, and then you can put your hero on it.
Yeah, hadn't noticed that. That's it. A nice little picture.
So you will play with him, and not in just one scenario. I can tell. I won't spoil, because you have to play the campaign and see what happens.
Sure.
But you won't play him just once. And if you do not get the Dragon Pledge is $160. You do not get it, you will play with a cardboard overlay.
Okay. So the dragon's still there in spirit, even if you don't get the figure itself for it.
He's part of the story, and it's just playing with a big extra miniature or not. It's up to people.
So do you have plans for much in the way of stretch goals and expansions for this, or is it going to be a very self-contained course?
Yes, we have lots of stretch goals. We have already unlocked 6 stretch goals. And there's an important thing to mention with that. We just don't want to unlock miniatures for miniatures,
For the sake of it.
We want to unlock game material as well, and gameplay. So we will release a full expansion as stretch goals. That's our plan. And it will be a full area. It will be the swamp, the bone swamp area. So you'll get everything. You'll have all of the tiles, all of the enemies that go with it, all of the cards that go with it, all of the loot, the event cards specific to this area, even the beast, that you can ride. It will be like this kind of big birds, like sort of ostriches, but with a big head. You will. This is what we want to unlock as stretch goals, and then we will have some expansions.
Nice.
Fascinating stuff. Well, folks, there are 14 days left if you fancy checking out Anastyr and getting involved in some Paleolithic barbarian fantasy, possibly. Thank you very much for taking the time, Leo. It's been great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you to all of you. Thank you very much. That was very nice.
All right, folks. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with you in just 2 ticks. And we're back again, and the rather louche Frenchman has been replaced once again by our stiff upper-lipped John. Welcome back, John. You missed Anastyr.
I know.
That's all right. You can go back and watch my Let's Play with Shay.
Yeah.
I think that wraps us up for another week, folks. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. I've certainly enjoyed being here, not stressing out at all about anything. Not bad. We will be back on Sunday for our XLBS show. If you are not a member of the Cult of Games and don't know what I'm talking about, come over to OnTableTop.com and sign up for a 30-day trial. And on a Sunday morning, we have a gentle witter meander through our hobby and some of the community stuff as well, and chew the fat about the things that amuse, annoy, or we enjoy within our hobby. Otherwise, we will see you again next Friday for more of the same. And don't forget, if you want a chance to win that prize from Cosmos and the UKGE, pop a comment below, and you too could be joining Robin Hood and his merry men in Sherwood Forest, thieving all the taxes. Yes. Really, all he's doing there is making the poor people suffer because they're going to have to be taxed again.
Yeah.
Dirt roads in a forest don't build themselves, you know. Robin. Until next week, have a great week of gaming. Bye-bye.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.